happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. And I'm really impressed by this ministry. And I see that you've been doing Unity for so long, you probably have things to teach me. I also am a very interactive speaker. So if I ask a question, I'm perfectly happy getting an answer. And if you don't feel like giving me an answer, then don't give one. That's a good thing. So let's talk today. We're going to talk about the law of mind action. Does anyone, have you heard of the law of mind action before? We have some people who say yes. It's written as the third principle of unity. And what it means is this: thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So we're really going to cover a lot of this book, which I see you have a few copies of out there. And I must say that when I went to the website 2 days ago to see what the podcast was, when Reverend Brenda picked up this book, I'm going, oh, I wonder if I'm going to have to change my talk. But Eric Butterworth is a great author, and we're going to talk about the power of the spoken word. There's so many things that are paradoxical about the idea of the power of the spoken word and the power of the word, and what we teach in the fourth principle in Unity, which is about denial and affirmation. So let's begin, and let's go to a quote from Proverbs 18:21. Which says, life and death are in the power of the tongue. What does that mean? Life and death are in the power of the tongue. For me, it means that I need to be aware at all times what's in my mind. What are my thoughts? Now, this chapter is about the power of the spoken word, but the thing to know about our divinity is that the universe supports us whether we're saying it or not. We knew that, right? So if we're thinking a thought, it's as powerful as speaking a thought. And these days, we can be distracted by so many things. Television, politics. There are so many opportunities to not remember the truth of our being. And the truth of our being is simply that we are divine creations. That's the second principle, that we are divine creations. We tend to take for granted our speech because just think about how we learn to talk. We were small children and we're growing up and we observe around us and our words start to come out. I don't recall in school, well, I do recall being told, I need to learn this. I was never told that I need to say things this particular way or that particular way. So it's like speech almost becomes an activity of the brainstem. It probably ought not be. It ought to be a frontal lobe activity. That's what I'm inviting us to be thinking. Because if it just becomes like breathing or sneezing or all those things that we do unconsciously, then those words, those thoughts that come from us will take us away from all of our good. And how much good is that? I'm sure we know that good is what God intends for us, and that good is unlimited and inexhaustible. Can you wrap your head around that? I mean, really? Can you really believe that the good that is present for us is unlimited and inexhaustible? It took me a long time because I was a raised Catholic, and I got unity up here, and I didn't get it right here right away. And that comes with really having faith and knowing what is present for me. So when we talk, a lot of times we just are babbling, saying this or that, and it depends on who we're with. And think about this. I'm sure it's not true for all of us, yet many times when we speak, what are we thinking about? Are we listening to what's being said? Or are we thinking about what we're going to say? And I think it's really important, and it's not a judgment, that we really pay attention and focus on listening. Not only to the words that are coming to us, yet what are we saying to ourselves when we are having a dialogue with someone? Are we paying attention? Are we aligning with the good, not only for ourselves, but all those around us? So the Bible continues to tell us that there, in many passages, that this power of the word is extremely important. So we see in Matthew 15:11, not that which enters into the mouth defiles the man, rather that which comes out of the mouth defiles the man. So what does that mean? Anyone ever thought about what that means? Not that which enters into the mouth defiles the man, rather that which comes out of the mouth defiles the man. So I'll give an example. So these days, it's still true, and Eric Butterworth wrote about this years ago, but we sometimes get infatuated with diets. I'll raise my hand if no one else does. And I finally surrendered into that idea, yet it's what am I putting in? Well, if I affirm what I'm putting in, and I'm not in denial about it, because I could be, and that would be ineffective, right? Because I could say I could eat anything and it's good for me, and if I know it isn't, it isn't. That doesn't change anything. So the power of the word is only that which is true. So if I'm going to keep eating sugar, that could defile me. And it's more important what I'm saying and what's coming out of me. So I have a little example. Could you hold this, because I don't have the speaker? So I don't know if anyone has seen on the internet, we'll do it this way. This activity I'm going to show you, and then we'll talk about it for a minute. But again, it's important what's coming out. Do we have, a pen will do. Safety caps these days.
You got it.
So now we've taken this tube of toothpaste and I pushed everything that came out of it. And so it's an example of how we lead our lives. And so once something comes out of our mouth, like the tube of toothpaste, it's really easy to put back, right? I would take the laughter to mean, no, it really isn't. And I would believe that that's true. And we could struggle with it and try to take things back that we've said. But the important thing is to listen to the truth, and that truth is that we're all divine, and that there is nothing that's going to benefit us by taking a negative thought, by presenting a negative thought in any way, shape, or form. Yes, as humans, sometimes we feel like that's something we want to do, but I want to invite us to be conscious to know that everything that comes out of us, we need to be intentional about. And we have that power. Matthew 12:36 says, "And unto you that every idle word that man shall speak, they shall account thereof on the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned." So this says that on the day of judgment, we need to be accountable. So when is the day of judgment? Right now, right now, right now. It never changes. It's always present. And so we are accountable for all things at all times. And that doesn't mean we ought to beat ourselves up, because we all sometimes choose to do less than. And I'm not saying that's okay, yet it's human, and we're all human, so we want to be aware. And so the point that we're making here is that listen, remember before you speak. There is power in our intention. Judgment Day is in every moment, in every action, in every thought, in every interaction with others. So I ask you, where do you keep your mind? Do you keep your mind on the truth, the capital T truth, which is that we are perfect creations of the One, that we are divine in expression? Do we really know that truth? Or is it a platitude that we put out there and it makes us feel better? I know that sometimes as humans we do make that choice. And so I ask, how do we practice to learn the tools and techniques to help us remember to be present to that truth? How many people have read Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady? Getting a few hands, quite a few hands. It's been a while since I've read the whole book cover to cover. Yet I remember when I first got into Unity, one of the simplest practices that really helped me change my awareness of the truth was Emily Cady saying asking, how do you use the I am? Because the I am is the divine part of us. So it's a simple practice. Every morning you affirm those positive statements. I am whole, I'm perfect, I'm complete. And you're also consciously aware of not saying, I'm sick, I'm sad, I'm unhappy. Now those things may be true in that moment, but the practice is to really align with the truth. Because the feelings that we have are valid and they're true, and that will always be the case. Yet the question is, how am I going to act with what's present for me? What choice am I going to make? Do I hear that I have the power to change whatever's going on for myself? So if I'm feeling a little off, I can affirm the truth that I am a perfect expression of wholeness. That I use the power of the word to remind myself of the truth, and that truth never changes. It may not fully manifest itself all the time in our physical being, yet that doesn't change the truth of what is in the universe. And that truth is there always available, unlimited and inexhaustible for us to be able to utilize. We often, I think, put ourselves down. And I actually am in this process myself right now, because in rereading Butterworth here, I said, well, I just notice usually when I speak, when I say a joke from the platform, it's kind of belittling to me. And I'm going, I got to stop that practice. Because although it might be funny, it's not the truth. And it's not me trying to get a laugh. It's remembering and reminding us what is the truth, what is present for us. So it becomes really easy sometimes to put ourselves down for fun. And I really want to invite us to not make that choice, because we are whole and perfect and complete, and wherever we are, with whoever we are, that truth is the same. So there's no need to make fun of ourselves. That doesn't mean life has to be totally serious all the time, because sometimes I'm actually said, "Oh, you're so serious, Bruce." And I am, but look at my job. And it can be fun. My job can be very fun. Although there's aspects of it that I love and there's some that I don't, I know that I'm good at those things that I don't love, yet I'm willing to do because it's a service, and I think we all have those things in our lives. And I want to come to the point that it really is important that what I just said about not making fun of ourselves, because if we're putting it out in the universe, the law of mind action is there, universal law is there, and it acts on what we ask. So if we go around saying negative statements, the universe is going to bring those to us. That's what the law of mind action is. The universe doesn't judge what our request is. So if our request is good, it's going to bring us good. If our request is less than, guess what? It's going to bring us less than. Because it's only acting the way law acts, and that is to produce what is being called forth. It makes no judgment. That comes with us. That's our responsibility, to decide what we're asking for. Is it good? Does it have value? Is it going to help us move forward? How many people have this book? Practical. Have you gotten through chapter 4? Well, I dated myself because Eric dated himself. Who knows what King X means? King X. So I have someone, I had no clue what King X meant. And so I looked it up on the internet. I love the internet. You can research anything and find an answer. Well, it's like playing tag where you have a tree that's safe. So instead of having a physical thing, you call King X before you get tagged so that you can't be whatever it is in the game that you're playing. So the point that he's making, which I would not have got at all unless I researched it, was that it does matter what you say, and it's not like a game where you can call out King X. If you're saying it, the law is the law, and it's going to keep bringing to you that what you're seeking. Even if you don't think you're seeking it, if you're saying it or thinking it, you're bringing it to yourself. That's a ton of responsibility, which is also why I love Unity, because it's about being self-aware, aware that the power resides in not only me, but in each person in the universe, whether they know it or not. The law is the law, and the law acts the way the law acts. So our goal is to remember and to practice the good. Remember and practice the good. Using the I am. How do I use it? It may feel like it's elementary. And guess what? If it's elementary and works, that's good. The other thing to know about, and this is another quote, so this is from Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Now, in my traditional faith, this would have meant something completely different. The Lord is the Christ. The Christ is within all of us. There is only one God consciousness. We all share that God consciousness. And it is from that God consciousness that the law works. It's within each one of us. We are all connected to the source of all good. to the source of everything that we could possibly imagine. It's there, and it's not always easy to remember that because so many times we allow ourselves to be distracted. Again, I go back to TV, radio, politics, and it's okay to listen to those things. Now, some Unity ministers would debate me on this. The key is, can I listen and still remember? Because if I can, it's good to know what's going on around me, around all those in race consciousness, which is what the Fillmores thought of universal consciousness. It is in universal consciousness, energy moves with how we think. It goes to the law of mind action again. It's exactly the same thing. So it's actually, in my mind, a responsibility we have to listen and not empower those things that others are saying. So rather than be in tension or distress or chaos, ground, surrender, allow myself to find out what's being called for here, what's mine to do. Is there something that I can do? Because ultimately, I am, you are, each of us is the only one who can do anything about any situation. I know it can be frustrating. I know it can be tempting to get wrapped up in the word that you're hearing. And I would invite us all to remember, this is how I best remember it. There's a huge difference between anti-war and peace. When we start to engage in our own ego will with something, then we're out of alignment with truth. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how good it sounds, because good does not have to be in resistance to anything. It actually isn't in resistance to anything. There's always a way forward. Am I willing to ground into, to dialogue about, to listen to what's being said, to what I'm thinking, and to finding the solution that can help the whole? And the whole is all of us. So we need to watch our words. We need to really be aware of our habits. Do you have any that you're willing to let go of? We need to use our tools. I didn't know we were going to use the song, Our Thoughts, Our Prayers. It's a great little song. If there's extra copies, I would invite you to take it as a practice, because our thoughts are prayers. Everything we do is a prayer. Are we intentional about our prayer? Remember, we want to be, because whatever we're putting out to the world, the universe is looking to support. The goal is to remember and listen to what we're saying, or to take charge of what we're saying, because ultimately, it is us raising our awareness that we, again, are perfect creations. Our consciousness is as high as it can be, always. Our consciousness is as high as it can be, always. So yes, we want to grow and we want to learn, and the truth is we have everything at all times. Are we willing to tap into that? Like our opening prayer, we're the device. How charged are we? The blessing that we have, the grace of God that is that consciousness is always 100% charged. It doesn't need to be powered up. It is the power. So whenever we're feeling that we're not connected, we just connect. And there's many ways to connect. We can do it in a group, we can do it individually. Whatever the practice is, we want to be able to connect. One thing I also want us to remember is the old Chinese proverb, which is if you can't say anything good, what should you say? Nothing. So I invite us all, in whatever we're doing, let's say something good. Let's say something good about it. I don't care even how out of alignment we are with it. Let's say something good about it. Because all things come from source. All things. Even those things we would like to debate don't. They do. There could be just different manifestations. The other thing I want us to consider in practice is no matter what our situation, whether it's at work, whether it's in a relationship, our family, any situation, sometimes we make judgments about the way it ought to be. Well, if they would only do this, or if they would only do that, then it'd be better. So guess who has the power in that situation? It's each individual, each one of us does, because we can make, this is Eric Butterworth all over, instead of the way it ought to be, or oughtness as he calls it, you can make it isness. And you make it so because you act and you see it a different way. So I invite us to see everything in a positive, good way. No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. We have the power to see it rightly. It might not even be manifesting that way, yet we have the power to see it rightly. And when the more of us see it rightly, the more it becomes right more quickly. It's really important for us to remember that this life is not so much about us individually. It's about our God self and how we're expressing our God self in everything that we do. So I invite us to practice setting aside our thoughts and asking and listening to what are the thoughts of Christ consciousness. What's present for us today? Am I getting in the way? If I am, I have the power to step out of the way and not be blaming of myself or others and just surrendering into the will of God. And that God isn't out here, it's in here, and it's in each one of you. When we remember that, things move more quickly. So I actually have a test for us today. Or it's actually, you can consider it homework, but I won't be back to grade it, so you'll have to grade yourselves. And that's a 7-day verbal diet. So I'm going to ask us all to do everything in our power. Number one, to be gentle with ourselves when we notice we didn't remember. Yet, be consciously aware of any negative thoughts or words that we're practicing. And allow ourselves to think before we say anything. To listen to what's present, to what's in our mind, to what's in universal mind. To vision what could be if it was manifesting the way that God consciousness would want it to be. To allow no negative words or thinking to come present to you. And to say things in a very positive and effective way. So remember the example of the toothpaste. Because if it doesn't come out, and you're aware and in charge of what is coming out, then you don't have a mess to clean up for yourself or others. Let's take that with the reminder that each one of us every day has the ability to use I fairly sizzle with zeal and energy and enthusiasm, and I'm eager to do today what ought to be done by me. That's from Charles Fillmore. It's a paraphrase. But each one of us every day has that ability and that power. So let's take a moment and go into meditation. So I invite us to completely ground into the Mother Earth, allowing ourselves to be rooted, reminding ourselves that at any time we can become aware that we are 100% supported by the Father and the Mother, that we are so blessed with the grace of Spirit, so blessed with the grace that comes and helps us to move through any obstacle that we might be experiencing. We remind ourselves that it is through this connection with the one source of truth that we are strengthened and we are able at any moment to use the law, to use it rightly, to use it as Spirit intended. Each one of us is called to be all that we are, so we invite ourselves into the memory of listening to what Spirit has for us, to be willing to hear that message, to think through it with clarity, to accept the blessing that is always available, to take any situation and see it rightly, and allow ourselves to express that right thinking. I invite us to move into the silence for a few moments and just allow whatever Spirit has for you to take hold in this moment. And as we move from this place of silence, we are reminded that at any moment we may choose, whether in silence or in chaos, to connect to the source of our good. And we are truly grateful for the opportunity this week to practice fasting on any words or thoughts that may be considered negative. that we feel empowered and guided by Spirit to vision things rightly and anew, and to ask, what is mine to do here? What is mine to do here? And as we are called back into this present moment, in this current space, we say thank you, Spirit, for the good of our life, for whatever opportunities are present, for the idea of perfect wholeness, for the idea of friendship, for camaraderie, for the good that we see and that we do with others. We are so grateful. And we are willing to say yes to whatever Spirit has for us. With that, we say thank you, and so it is.